is taking some heat online after posting a call for active members of the military to stand against what they call illegal orders.
Okay, so I had to bust out one more time before the end of the day. I saw this video and it just made me sick. In fact, I'm calling right now for Donald Trump to take Mark Kelly and this Crow guy. Let's see, I wrote his name down. Jason Crow from Colorado. These two need to go. You need to get them taken out of Congress. These two have just right now committed treason as far as I'm concerned. Let's get into this and I'll show you.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
Your vigilance is critical.
And know that we have your back.
Because now, more than ever,
the American people need you. We need you to stand up for our laws,
our Constitution,
and who we are as Americans. Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
Don't give up the ship.
What the holy hell was that? You see what I'm talking about? It's about time that we start getting people like this out of elected office, people out of this country, period. America first, that's what I'm saying.
This is the quote: refuse illegal orders. That's the message from a handful of powerful Democrats, all with military or intelligence backgrounds, who want service members to know their rights, they say, when it comes to strikes that they deem unlawful.
This administration is
pitting our uniformed military and intelligence community professionals against American citizens. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders. You can refuse illegal orders. You must refuse illegal orders.
All right, so the world's largest aircraft carrier is now stationed in the Caribbean as part of Operation Southern Spear. The U.S. military has targeted 21 suspected drug boats, killing at least 82 alleged smugglers. Tommy Lahren is here, but first to one of the Democrats in that video, Colorado Congressman Jason Crow, former Army Ranger and Bronze Star recipient. Thank you very much, Congressman, for joining us today. You see some of the pushback to this video when some look at it and say,
this is where she makes an excellent point, and you're going to start hearing this self-righteous indignation from this guy. Ridiculous to hear him. And he's going to get on a high horse, and he's going to really feel entitled with his ignore America, ignore Trump, and he's going to dance around the whole subject. He's not going to answer specific questions. This guy is the epitome of what makes people hate politicians. Just watch this and pay attention and tell me what you think. And if you're not disgusted by this, please tell me why. Leave me a comment and tell me, explain yourself, because I can't understand what you would find justified in anything this clown had to say.
You know, if you are in the United States military, you sign up, you carry out the mission that is assigned to you. The other option is to not join the military or to leave if you feel that you can't carry out an order. But the command is just an integral part of what you sign up for, which you know way better than I do, and I thank you for your service. So, Congressman, thank you for being here. Why did you participate in this video?
Martha, we're standing by our troops, our service members who are often put in very difficult positions, and Donald Trump has put them in very difficult positions and has alluded to putting them in even more difficult positions in the months and years ahead.
Boy, this is classic. He talks about when you allude to things. Fact is that you're innocent until proven guilty. You can't sit here and speculate on the possibility of crimes that may be committed. That is so ridiculous. That's so anti-American, in fact. Can't believe this guy was an Army Ranger. This clown from Colorado needs to get the boot.
We are reminding folks about what the Uniform Code of Military Justice says, what the Constitution says, what the law of war says. You know, this is really no different than what I did with my infantry platoon in advance of deploying to Iraq in 2003. I trained these young soldiers on their obligation to comply with the law of war, to comply with the Constitution, and what is a lawful versus a unlawful order.
What law are you talking about that's being broken? And then you said that he's implying that he might do something that they wouldn't want to uphold or follow through with in the future. What are you talking about specifically?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Well, number one, the protests at Lafayette Square in the first Trump administration where he said, can't you just shoot them? Can't you just shoot them in the legs or something? That's his direct quote. And of course, the then chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff
That was not a military
order.
That was a comment. That's not a military order.
When that's coming from the President of the United States to your generals, don't you think that's a request? That's
I'm
a question?
asking specifically now what you're talking about.
Yeah, number two, he's also threatened to send the military into Chicago and other cities to, quote, go to war with those cities. Right? That is a very, very disturbing thing. Number three, he's also alluded to sending troops to polling stations, which is actually a violation of U.S. law. U.S. criminal law prohibits troops from going to polling stations, and he's alluded to that. So those are just one of many examples.
You're talking about
Donald Trump
illusions. You're not
recently
talking about actual policy. You're not talking about things that our members of our service members who we revere and respect are actually being asked to do. So when you see this video on all over the place, when you see this video on social media, I think a lot of people scratch their heads and they say, what exactly are they talking about? Are they talking about
Martha,
not allowing gunboats to make it to the United States carrying drugs?
No.
Is that what you're talking about?
Martha, here's a novel idea. How about we actually prevent things from happening before they become a problem?
I think that's what they're trying to do.
What you're saying is we have to wait until there's a problem to respond to that problem.
No, I'm not.
Right? As a military officer, what I think is important is we train people, we give them information, we prepare people for challenges coming down the pike. That is what I did as a commander in the military. That's what I'm doing now, as we are standing by our troops. We are reminding them of their obligation.
Order from the commander-in-chief that we are asking our military to carry out are you objecting to? This is very, very vague. And it was so vague in this video. I don't think people could figure out what you guys were all talking about, honestly.
Martha, Donald Trump has made a series of very disturbing comments and suggestions that would violate U.S. law and put our military in terrible positions.
Again, we're getting nowhere because you're not talking about an order.
I don't want to wait until that happens to remind our troops of their obligation, because then it'll be too late. We are standing by our troops and our amazing men and women in uniform to remind them
who sign up every day as you did to carry out the orders of the commander-in-chief. We are not engaged in new wars. We have no troops on the ground in Ukraine except some who were training pilot missions, not on any front lines of any kind. In the Caribbean right now, we've sent a carrier there. I thought these were the specific operations that are actually happening that you might be referring to. But we've created a huge presence in the Caribbean to stop fentanyl deaths, of which there were more than 48,000 plus in the last year alone. And the president doesn't want those drugs to make it to the United States. But you're not talking about any of these actual actions that have been carried out by the commander-in-chief and by the Department of Defense?
First of all, that is a separate issue. We are not talking about Venezuela at all in this video. We never mentioned it once.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
But since you raised it, I actually am deeply concerned. We spent $3 trillion, 7,000 U.S. lives, hundreds of thousands of other lives in endless wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They ended extremely poorly because we stopped debating it. We stopped paying for it.
Yep.
We stopped being
held
accountable for it.
Yeah.
Well, that was Republicans
I don't remember you making a video about that at the time.
Actually, you should look it up. I did make videos about it, as a matter of fact. I pushed back on Joe Biden. I pushed back on Donald Trump. I pushed back on Barack Obama. I pushed back on George W. Bush, because I had to fight those wars.
But at least that was something specific.
And I am thinking very clearly about the men and women who are being put in positions that, once again, without congressional authorization, without public debate, to do the same thing. Have we learned nothing about the last 25 years of war and endless conflict?
What this president has said is that he has not taken us to war, that he wants to prevent war, that he wants to extract us from situations where we've said from the beginning that we won't have any boots on the ground
bombing
in Ukraine.
Iran,
so I think
bombing
it's a little
the Houthis, bombing boats in the Caribbean. This president
So we
doesn't see a
aided a
problem. He
mission
doesn't
by
think he can bomb his way
Israel
out
in
of.
Iran. Did you have a problem with taking out Iranian nuclear facilities?
We've seen more conflict and more use in the military in the first 11 months of this administration than we have in any administration. What needs to happen is they need to come to Congress, and we need to debate this. And for him to say there's no new war, that's exactly the problem, because only Congress can declare a war. Only Congress, according to our Constitution, has the authority to send our men and women into conflict.
We understand the War Powers Act. We know how it works.
Well, apparently you don't, because you're saying
that's not
that
true.
no war exists, so it's not a problem. The United States Congress is the one that has to make that decision.
Specifically what your issue is. And so for members, prominent members of the United States Congress to tell young men and women of the military that they should not abide by illegal orders and to leave it so vague and to talk about comments that have been made in the past and what they might lead to, I think could potentially be very confusing for young men and women who have committed to service, which you honorably did, and I commend you for the sacrifice that you made. Let me just show you this. This is Senator Eric Schmidt.
I'm going to respond to that.
Go ahead.
Military service is tough. It's really tough.
I don't doubt it.
We send our men and women into very difficult, very sometimes untenable situations. I know that. I've been in those situations. That's why moral clarity, that's why reminding people about what their obligations are, that's why abiding by the law and providing guidance and training them in advance is important. You can never wait until there's a problem to train people and prepare them for that.
Well,
it's really, really important that we set the conditions right now to make sure that people understand their constitutional obligations. And we are only talking about unlawful orders versus lawful orders.
Right.
That is the
you just haven't
distinction.
Outlined what any specific unlawful order. This is Senator Eric Schmidt that he released on X. This is what he said. At the end of the day, he's speaking about the members of Congress who did this video. They're mad at the American people that the American people chose Trump, and now they're calling on the military and intelligence community to intervene. Sounds a little, quote, subversive to democracy-ish, says Senator Eric Schmidt. So let me give you a moment to respond to that, Congressman.
Yeah, I mean, that's so patently false and absurd. I don't even know how to respond to it. What we are doing is reminding people of their obligations under federal law and under the UCMJ in no different way than I did when I was an infantry officer and an infantry lieutenant preparing my soldiers to be deployed. It is as simple as that. So
well,
people, that's unfortunate that in politics these days, people grab something and twist it and contort it and lie.
Some might say that
make it into
you have
something
grabbed
it's
something
not.
and twisted it and contorted it. You have, you're talking to young members of the American military, and you're not telling them specifically what it is they should see as illegal. So you're putting ideas into their head that maybe they're being asked to do something illegal, and what we're seeing actually is recruitment rising and people wanting to join the military under the president.
Here's an interesting fact for you, Martha. Our men and women actually are very smart, very incredible men and women in our military. And
you don't
a
have
recent
to tell
survey,
me that.
Well, apparently I do.
No,
a
you
recent
don't,
survey
sir. I have
actually
great
polled
respect
them,
for the United States military.
Well, you don't think they can handle a reminder about federal law and the UCMJ, is what I'm hearing. And a recent survey showed that 8 out of 10 service members deeply understand their obligation of lawful orders, right? 8 out of 10. So we want to get that. That should be 10 out of 10. But this is something that they're trained on. Go and look at the training. Maybe even go and participate or observe some of the training that our men and women go through. It is incredible. We expect a lot of these men and women. They go through very intense, rigorous training because they're put in intense, rigorous positions. And frankly, I bristle at the notion that they can't handle a suggestion or a reminder of what the law requires them to do and what the Constitution requires them to do. You actually disparage them when you say that a simple reminder is something they cannot handle.
You're wrong. You're 100% wrong. I didn't disparage them in any way. In fact, I give them enormous credit.
You don't think they can handle reminders about their legal obligations?
I think
these men and women certainly can handle it.
If it was specific and they could figure out what order you're referring to, I have the most deep respect for everyone who serves in the military, including you, sir, for the sacrifice that you made. I did not make that sacrifice myself, so I put everyone who makes that sacrifice in a very special place in my heart. And I believe they're there to serve the country. So you have put out this video. It's getting a lot of attention. I thank you for joining me to talk about it. And I think, you know, people can look at it and take away from it what they want. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to be specific about what illegal actions you were referring to. So thank you for being here, Congressman, and thank you again for your service.
Boy, I got to tell you, that was hard to listen to. Thank God that we've got commentators like that woman at Fox News. Was that Martha? Did a great job handling that clown. Boy, he was talking out of both sides of his neck. I can't tell you how disgusting it was. We're going to clean this up, and we're going to let Stephen Miller here bring us home. Love Stephen Miller. Pay attention, see what you think.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy, Stephen Miller, summed it up pretty well. Democrat lawmakers are now openly calling for insurrection. Stephen Miller joins me now to expand on that thought. It truly is an incredible video, Stephen, and one that you see as insurrection?
It is insurrection, plainly, directly, without question. And when you have one of the lawmakers on that video being unable to state in, as you say, lengthy cross-examination, a single so-called illegal order, it just proves the point. It's a general call for rebellion from the CIA and the armed services of the United States by Democrat lawmakers, saying that you have not only the right, but the duty and the obligation to defy orders of the commander-in-chief, that those who carry weapons in America's name should defy their chain of command and engage in open acts of insurrection, that the CIA, the clandestine service, which isn't even legally authorized to operate in the United States, should engage in, again, acts of rebellion and insurrection. These lawmakers should honestly resign in disgrace and never return to public office again for even daring to think, let alone to say these words and to say them proudly. But it shows what a dangerous moment we're in. We have seen the Democratic Party nurse the flames of violence and insurrection against the federal government for the last 10 months. When you see this continuous campaign of violence against ICE officers and Border Patrol agents, when you see Democrat sanctuary politicians and Democrat sanctuary governors side with the rioters, side with the assaulters over federal law enforcement, and that spills even into juries and grand juries, when you see Democrat jurors engage in nullification to let off violent attackers who are engaging in physical violence, physical assault against federal officers. This is a dangerous moment. You have a political party, an organization, the Democrat Party, and their message is that any action, no matter how unlawful, no matter how dangerous, no matter how much it threatens constitutional order, is justified if it keeps Democrat policies in effect at any cost.
I think we might have Stephen Miller back, and hopefully he can hear me now. If you might, Stephen. I have been going through some of the comments. It's no problem. I've been going through some of the comments to your call of this as insurrection. Both Senator Slotkin and Senator Kelly say you do not understand. You do not understand the UCMJ. You do not understand the Constitution. And apparently they are the sole authorities on insurrection and the Constitution.
Look, there is nothing graver that you could possibly say as a United States Senator than encouraging, urging, directing members of the armed forces of the United States or the clandestine services of the United States to defy their president, defy their chain of command, defy their superiors. To say such a thing would require you to have and to present to the nation some extraordinary scandal beyond even our wildest imagination, which of course they don't have, because every single thing that this president has done has been not only lawful, but has been repairing and reversing the unlawful and unconstitutional behavior of the previous administration, which opened our nation's borders up to millions of illegal aliens and foreign terrorists and gang leaders and cartel operatives and everyone else threatening peace, safety, and public order in the United States. So this conduct by these lawmakers is a direct attack on this republic. But there's an even deeper issue here that we have to understand. The Democrat Party has reached a point of extremism where the only thing that they believe is legitimate are the things that keep them in power and that keep their policies in effect no matter the will of the public. So, for example, if President Trump orders an illegal alien deported, they would have their district court judges block that deportation. But if they're in power, what will they do? End the filibuster, stack the Supreme Court, appoint 10 radical loyalists, and destroy our entire constitutional order forever. In other words, they don't believe in systems, they don't believe in rules, they don't believe in laws. They believe in whatever keeps them in power. And if what they think keeps them in power is a military insurrection or a CIA insurrection, that's what they support. But if in a different setting, if, say, a soldier doesn't want to take the COVID vaccine, then they represent a threat to order in their view, and that person must be crushed and deprived of employment, deprived of opportunity. If a Democrat, for example, complains about election integrity, that person's a hero. If a Republican complains of election integrity, that person's to be jailed and incarcerated for life. This is the moment that we're in. This is what we're dealing with. So when we say that Democrats are communists, we don't just mean that, well, they believe in the state control of property. We mean they've adopted a method of thinking in which any use of force is justified for their end state of power and control. So they become a third world party, and we have to internalize that. We're not dealing with the old Democratic Party. We're dealing with a third world party.
Stephen Miller, thank you so much for fighting through the technological issues, and thank you so much for being with us here today to address what I think is a very, very, very serious moment for our republic. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.